Hey, welcome everyone. Glad you're here.
Yeah.
I'm
Welcome to
Coach
today's
Susan.
live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have Coach Diana here with me today.
And I have Coach Susan
We
here with me.
say that again.
And I have Coach Susan here with me. So we're
Yes,
so
that's
happy to be
right.
here with you. It's a happy Friday, right?
Yes, it is. And I think it's been a busy Friday for both of us. How about for you?
It's been a busy couple days for me. Yeah, we've had some crazy weather. Um, and a really busy week. And for those of you who've been checking in with us recently, you know that we're really busy getting prepared for our upcoming coaching experience. And we're super excited about that. And we're revamping material, going to make it super experiential and fun. And Susan, I'm looking forward to diving into this because I always grow right along with the group.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's such a powerful course, the coursework, but then the experiential part. That's what I've really been working with in the last couple of days, is just really tailoring it and freshening it up, making it different even from last year. So I know there are some people who have signed up that already did it last year. It is going to be a little bit different. So I'm excited about that.
Are we live on Instagram?
We are.
Last year. It is going to be. You can hear us twice until I turn my voice. All right, I'm going to check the comments to see who's with us. So we have some viewers with us today.
We do.
Wondering, what your thoughts are about our topic today.
Yeah, signs that you may be an unhealthy people pleaser.
Yes.
So I see lots of people joining on Instagram. So glad to see you. I know we had some new followers last time that we were here. So I'm wondering, do we have anyone new joining us? I'd love to welcome you and just say, hey.
Yeah.
This is one I struggle with. Stephanie, I see you. So I'm glad you're here. What do you need most today? So I'm asking Stephanie. I'm also asking all of you, what is it that you need? Because we want to be here to serve you. Yes, we are promoting our Moving Beyond People Pleasing coaching group. We also want to be here to serve you. So if you have questions, if you want to engage with us, we would love that. Do remember, this is Leslie Vernick's public page, so your comments can be viewed by everyone. If you want to get a particular question anonymously to Coach Diana and I, send that to leslievernick.com/question/, and we would be happy to answer that for you anonymously. So who's with Stephanie? I struggle with this one. Go ahead and put your hand up if this is you.
Yeah, maybe you find yourself bending over backwards to avoid conflict. Maybe you have difficulty just telling somebody that I can't do that for you. I know I've been in that category. Maybe you over-explain yourself way too much in an effort to just want someone to like you or to love you. Or maybe you feel like it's your burden to keep everyone happy. How do you relate to people pleasing in your life? And I guess the question is, do you even notice it? Or is it just part of who you are?
Yeah, do you even notice it? At least for me, when I think about this topic, it's sort of sneaky for me. It comes in and attaches to a strength that I have of being adaptable and flexible. And sometimes I can be over accommodating to others to my own detriment. I think that's where it hits me the hardest.
Yeah. You're over accommodating. Say that again.
It hits me in a strength that I have where I am flexible and adaptable. And so it's hard for me to notice it always because I think that I'm being helpful.
Yeah.
I think I'm using a strength. And then all of a sudden I've crossed a line and I am over accommodating.
I remember sending out, along those lines, I remember sending out a little bit of a questionnaire to some of my friends. and asking them to rate my strengths and my weaknesses. And one of the strengths that came back to me was I'm willing. And then I reached back to two of them and I said, you didn't indicate any weaknesses. And my one friend said, that's also your weakness, being willing. And it was so interesting how she flipped the narrative. So I could ask the question of myself, where and how am I too willing? What does it say about me? What does it say about my time, my choices, my priorities? Yeah.
Being too willing. Yeah,
Yes.
that's one of those subtleties that's easy to miss. So we're going to be talking about that today. So if this is resonating, or if you have your own way where people pleasing is part of your life in a sneaky way, go ahead and put that in the chat.
So we see over accommodating, pushing the can down the road rather than addressing the issue. Ugh.
Yes.
Yeah. How sometimes we really avoid what did they call that? The elephant in the room.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sometimes I don't address the elephant in the room, and I ask myself, is it my job to address the elephant in the room, or do I just politely go along? What does it cost me to do that? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It costs me honesty, possibly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Saying yes to our kids too often.
Mm-hmm. For sure. So at its core, people pleasing is prioritizing others' approval or comfort over our own needs, our own values, or even what God is asking of us. So that's where it gets a little bit tricky. There's a fine line there. So healthy people pleasing is about serving others, having compassion, generosity. Whereas unhealthy people pleasing is about eventually erasing yourself. It's about fear of rejection. It's about resentment, dishonesty. And those can be hard sometimes to notice until they get really entrenched. And then we feel kind of stuck and trapped in those.
Absolutely. And in response to the question in the chat, yes, I am saying that even our strengths, if they are not balanced in the right ways, can become a weakness or a negative in our lives.
Absolutely, they can.
Yeah.
Fear of rejection. Yeah, I see you, Linda. That's a big one, isn't it, for people pleasers?
Absolutely. So I'm wondering how many in our audience can really think of a time that they did something just to avoid conflict or win approval.
Mm-hmm.
Can you think of something?
That's a great question. And you're catching me sort of on the spot with an example. But I think it's sort of like what I said, is that being overly accommodating, taking things a little bit too far with my flexibility, which may eat up my time when I really need that for other things.
Yes.
And I'm learning really to set boundaries with myself when I need time for myself or for work, self-care,
yes,
obligations, home care, that I don't have that time to give to others. And it is about practicing a kind no.
Well, yeah, thank you for being honest and for thinking of that in the spot. You gave me time to think of something that I could share.
Yeah.
And, I think I noticed I just did this yesterday, to be quite honest. I was asked a favor and I didn't want to do it. First thing is I noticed I really didn't want to do it. And I thought, but I could do it. And so I said yes. In the moment, everything for me always feels like I could do that. So I feel like it's really important to know your priorities, as you said, what matters. And so in the moment, the yes might sound like a good thing, But after the fact, when you think about it, what's it going to cost you time-wise, money-wise? What will you set aside that needed to be addressed or looked at or tended to in honor of an ask that maybe should have been a no? Does that make sense?
Yeah. And one time of that might not seem like a big deal, but if this is a constant pattern that you have, if this is happening, weekly or daily,
Right.
it is going to start to tax you.
Or
And
even just noticing those relationships where you continually get called in those ways to put up some boundaries.
yeah. And SH is saying, if you had close contact with a manipulator, they can accuse you of being selfish.
Yes.
Which then makes you strive to prove you're not being selfish. That gets you in that trap of overgiving, which is sort of what they're hoping for, right? To get you trapped.
Well, so even in my moment that I'm sharing, I'm paying particular attention to the internal dialogue and rationalization of your yes and your no. Are you speaking truth to yourself in those moments? Are you being real and honest? Are you aware? Yeah. Are you aware of what your real priorities and values are?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I know in this community, many people are in relationship with destructive people. And this is a place where destructive people will engage with you to continually abuse you, to tell you that you're selfish, to try to get you to overfunction for them, to overgive. They do work towards exhausting you and erasing you.
And that's really where I think it's important to recognize the patterns in the relationship so that you, because it might be a one-off or it might be something that you continually experience in a particular relationship, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So I thought we could just share some of the 8 signs, like the most common signs that you might be an unhealthy people pleaser. So if as we're going through this, if this resonates with you, feel free to raise your hand in the chat or put the number that we're talking on in the chat so that we can engage with you. So number 1 is that difficulty saying no, as we're talking about.
So my question is, do you experience that? Do you have difficulty saying no?
Mm-hmm.
And what's that all about? Is it guilt? Is it anxiety? Is it fear of just turning, or someone being disappointed with you?
Mm-hmm.
Even when you know it's a no because you need self-care, you're tired, or you have other places you need to be. So if that's you, put a number 1 in the chat. You resonate with that. Difficulty saying no.
Hey, Kathy, I see your number 1 there.
Yes.
Yeah, this is a common one. Another common one is overcommitting constantly. So you notice you've said yes to too many things because you don't want to disappoint. So it's costing you peace. So it's similar. Rather than just difficulty saying no, is that you notice your schedule is overwhelmed. It's jam-packed with things. I see some yeses. Thanks.
We have some agreement in the house.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So what about just being afraid to speak up? So we'll call this number 3. What if you hide what you truly feel and think? You won't speak up when you disagree. You keep quiet so others won't get upset. And what's your first thought when you think about this topic? It could be your faith, right? It could be your political orientation. Those are 2 hot topics. Or it could be just obviously to avoid conflict, right? Yeah.
Avoiding conflict, but I think also, again, avoiding other people's discomfort. In our culture, in our society, people don't handle feelings all that well. They don't
No.
handle their own well, let alone handling the feelings of others. And so a lot of people in our relationships get afraid, or they feel shame, or they feel overwhelmed if we have feelings. So I know this is another one that really impacts me is I keep my feelings internal, and I think, well, I'm just going to manage my own feelings. I'm not going to share those because the other person may not know what to do with them. So I don't want to overtax them, overburden them with what's going on with me. So I'll just keep that inside.
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I see some number 3s coming up.
Yeah, not allowing yourself to be known by just keeping quiet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I feel like often where that shows up is maybe if you've had a loss and you talk about how you feel about losing someone. I often in situations like that, the room gets really tense and quiet because people don't know how to walk in those places. And so inadvertently teaching us to hold our thoughts to ourselves and to avoid sharing what's really going on or how we're feeling.
Yeah.
So,
and there's a lot of fixers out there, and maybe that's resonating with you as well. But fixers want to get rid of feelings right away. So they move in to solve the issue, to distract, or to bring something shiny and happy so that the feelings go away. And so that doesn't feel like a safe place then to share your feelings if somebody is just trying to get rid of them quickly.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So number 4, we might call defining yourself by others' approval, allowing other people to tell you who you should be based on their happiness with you.
Are you aware of that at all, ever wanting people to love you, like you? I'm sure that's a part of being human.
Yeah. That ability to be sort of a chameleon. What do they
Yeah.
need me to be in order to accept me so that I can belong? It's also survival mode, right? Is
Yeah.
we have a need for love and belonging. But do we change ourselves in order to get that?
Or are we hyper vigilant about needing that? I think it truly wanting to be approved by others is human. But to what extent will we go to obtain that approval? And does our sense of well-being depend on that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see some resonating with that number 4. We're still going back to that number 3. I think that was hitting a lot of people.
Number 3.
Yeah, number 3 seems to be a big one.
Well,
Shut down.
I think, sitting with the tension is hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Valerie, I see 4 is huge for you. You need so badly to be super mom. Yeah, I think many of us women can resonate with that. Super wife, super mom, super woman. But why do you need so badly for that? I bet there's something deep inside you, a deep belief maybe you have that's creating that need.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you do have questions around our topic today or about our upcoming course and you'd like to ask some questions, we have a question tracker. You can feel free to put your questions in the chat, or you can put them at lesliebernick.com/question/. You can ask them anonymously and securely that way. And I'd like to invite you to ask any questions that you have that are relevant to what we're talking about today. We would love to engage you about this unhealthy people-pleasing part of you or us, or, and how it shows up for you, what questions you have. Of course, we're taking a light dive today talking about it. we will be taking a deep dive over 6 weeks. Because to be truthful, Susan, I think a lot of times, even for myself, I can hide the ways in which I do these things. They're not apparent to me because I've been possibly doing them for quite a while. And so, what I love about the coaching process is that we really encourage self analysis, deeper thinking, transformational change, right? Like, how do I don't want to just sit for, 90 minutes in a coaching group and not be different. So investing in this is really investing in changing how you walk out life.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big choice. Yeah, a good choice.
Yeah. So let's keep going with our list here as you're interacting with us. We are up to number 5 on our list of the 8 most common unhealthy people-pleasing signs. Fear of conflict. I've heard some of you already mention this, but if you find you'll do almost anything to avoid confrontation, even healthy, necessary conversations, sometimes not even confrontation. If big conversations sound scary because you're afraid they're going to devolve into conflict, this might be you.
Yeah. And you know what? When you say that, I just want to flip that a little bit. What if I welcomed conflict? What would healthy conflict look like? And how would it help me to show up in my best self, in my noble self, right? In my non-people pleasing self.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So having a healthy disagreement means that you can speak to one another with kindness and respect, and de-escalate the conversation so that it isn't conflictual.
Yeah.
But that means you have to have 2 healthy people in that relationship. But also we can work on conversations, practice conversations to keep de-escalating, even if the other person wants to escalate. Because those of you who are in destructive relationships, you aren't going to be able to have healthy conversations if the other person is intent on being unhealthy. Yeah, I see. Andrea, Anna, yes, number 5 for sure. Fear of conflict is big for people.
Yeah, engaging in conflict in a matter-of-fact way, kind of just a matter of business, being understood. It's going to be a healthy conflict, a difference of opinion, but how we bring ourselves to the table is a part of that, right? So as we walk out people pleasing, we really want to engage in being authentic and showing the best of ourselves, which we call our noble selves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So what's next, Susan?
Number 6.
Okay.
Feeling resentful or burned out. Does anybody relate to that? Resentment or burnout? You're always giving, but you feel unappreciated, exhausted, bitter at times. And then you may be thinking, why doesn't anyone see how much I do? Why is it always me giving?
So what would it look like to step out of being a victim of that? Right?
Mm-hmm.
And being in control of your own ability to find energy, not allow that to happen. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what would it look like? It would look like learning how to develop healthy boundaries, defining your limits. It would look like knowing yourself well and honoring yourself. So those are the ways in which you can transform. And we'll be teaching that in our Moving Beyond People Pleasing experience, as we'll be teaching those exact things to help you move from this place of feeling burned out and resentful.
That's a good one. Just imagine how much energy and time that would save you if you didn't have to carry those emotions.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Do you want me to read 7?
Yeah, go ahead.
Neglecting God's calling to please. Oh, that's a big one. Neglecting God's calling to please people. Um, hmm. Wow. So for me, that's one of the highest costs is if I'm pleasing others, I'm not living for God. I have conflict between the immediate needs or eternal rewards. And, God's not there present with me all the time, putting the pressure on me like maybe I might feel from people in my external environment. And so it might be, quote, easier to cave to the immediate rather than move into what is eternal, lasting, or what I might say matters really most in the long run, or even to me personally. And that's a part of being human, and we're all challenged in that. So what will we do with that? How will we carry that forward to be mindful of what God is calling us to? And I think, I don't know about you, Susan, but I think for me, I have to remember that daily. It's a heart, mind, it's a heart and mind attitude, you know?
Yeah, and about deep beliefs, right? Not just daily, but moment by moment.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, and as I was preparing for these coming weeks, I was just rewatching one of the videos, which is on idols, right?
Mm.
It's so powerful to really press into where do what do I love more than God? What is my ranking and orders of things that I love and desire and think I need? And it's really been challenging me, and I'm excited to experience that with those who are registering for our course.
What I think I need. I love those words. What is it I really think I need? And what is it that I really, truly need? Am I being spirit led?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So compromising, that's a big one. Compromising who we know we are in Christ to accommodate or appease or please other people.
And so if that's you and that's coming up for you now, the question I want you to take with your pad and paper, say, where are the specific ways in which I'm compromising that God is showing me right now as Susan and I are talking with you? We want to anchor in that moment. And that may be a point where you need to be coached around. How do I step out of this? How can I be different? But the first step is awareness. I'm aware now as we're talking that I'm compromising in certain ways to please others. But when does that show up? Recognizing is our first step.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and really getting back to yourself. And I read that Holly saying, finally feeling my true self again. So part of what happens with unhealthy people pleasing is that you have a low sense of self and that you begin to lose your identity. So doing things like holding appropriate boundaries helps you to find yourself again, realigning with God, who is hopefully our first love. Can help tremendously in figuring out who we are.
Right. Yeah, I like that. I'm always discovering who I am. Yesterday, I took a hike and I was like, this is who I am. I love this. It was so giving to me, even though I was scared to death of getting ticks. But yeah.
They are big this year, right? There's a lot.
Yeah. And then we stayed on the trail, so it wasn't a big deal. But anyways, yeah, what's life giving? That's what, and that's just unique for all of us. So I do love number 8. Am I focused on who I am and living true to my values, my dreams, and who God says I am? Yeah.
Yeah. So we just listed off 8 of the most common signs. There are many more. One thing we dive into in this course is the 16 red flags of people pleasing. That's something we do in our first meeting. But this was just a little teaser in that. This is part of what we're working on. So it's resonating with many of you.
So I wonder, as you read over the ways in which we people please and what we engage in, I'm wondering if, and we've talked about this throughout the week, I'm wondering if you recognize what it costs you, and maybe just currently what it costs you right now,
Hmm.
you know, and what are some things that you notice? And I'll just start. I'll just start by saying what it has cost me in the past is the ability to use my voice. Because as I engage in pleasing others and not making my needs known, I get quieter, and I would get quieter and quieter. And what I'm what I'm generating for other people is that it's okay, and it's not okay to lose ourselves. Yeah.
Right.
So what are you noticing that it's costing you? If you have a notice, just please comment.
Yeah. So I think what I notice most is deep, honest, vulnerable relationships. So where I might be over accommodating, too flexible for others, trying to avoid conflict, I'm also not very authentic. I don't
Mm,
allow myself to be vulnerable, to actually allow others to know me well and to
right.
hold space for me, which is what true intimacy is about. And there's a big cost in that, right? That I don't really recognize all the time. Yeah. So number 8, I see in the chat, number 8 was low sense of self or your identity. That was our number
Mhm.
8. So I want you to know if you fall into any or all of these 8, it doesn't make you a bad person. It just means that you may need to invite some more self reflection and maybe invite God in to help you grow in new patterns. You may need to get support. You may need to invite transformational experience into your life.
So we will, I can review all 8 very quickly. Get your pen paper and your paper ready. All right. Number 1 is difficulty saying no. Number 2 is overcommitting constantly. Number 3, hiding your true feelings. 4 is defining yourself by others' approval. 5 is fear of conflict. 6 is feeling resentful or burnt out. 7 is neglecting God's calling to please people. And 8 is low sense of self or identity.
Mhm. There you
So,
go.
yeah, if you want help and you want to be empowered, really understanding and identifying the roots that are calling you to unhealthy people pleasing, join us.
Mhm.
Yeah.
This is where we can't begin change without that awareness, right? So that ability to start to self-reflect and notice the cost to you, know how it's impacting you. Notice when you're starting to people please rather than being your honest, authentic self. That is the beginning of change. So that is a big part of what we help you do, even see how it's impacting you. And then we work on how to begin transforming out of that so that you don't experience the costs of it. So the first step of that is awareness.
And
So
we want to invite you into a biblically based model for creating change in your life in this area. And I'm so glad for those of you that are in. Those of you that are on the fence, it is not too late. We start on Monday. We are still keeping the doors open for any last minute people that want to come in and join us. You will have multiple opportunities throughout the week to address and to identify and to work on the things that are holding you back. And, I don't know, I do a lot of continuing education. And I do a lot of journaling. What I've noticed is that it's really important for me to go back in my journal and see what's different and to be transformed about the things that God is calling me to. And that has to be intentional. And so I'm wondering, how are you intentionally engaging in your life to create real and transformative change? And who is on that path with you that can encourage you and hold you accountable at the same time?
Mm-hmm. So while we do start our first class on Monday, we have lots of options for you. So if you heard that and thought, well, I can't on Monday, I'm always busy on Mondays, that's okay. We have classes on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday. And so there are daytime classes, there are evening classes, and all you have to do is be available for one of those in a week. And you don't have to limit yourself to a particular day and a particular time. You can switch it up. So we have 6 weeks. So it's just finding time during those 6 weeks. So 6 times for you to show up live. That's going to be the most transformational part of it. There is great information. And that material you get immediately when you register for Moving Beyond People Pleasing. You get a lot of super great information, but we work with you on transformation in these live group coaching, which is you can attend 9 times in a week, but hopefully you'll do one time for 90 minutes live where you get to interact with us about the material in order to really make change.
Yeah.
So we will get the opportunity to practice saying no. Soft no's, harder no's. We can come up with scripts and role plays, but it's so important to start with those just tiny boundaries of just no. That's a full sentence, right? But there are so many ways to say no, and I love that we get to practice that together. Helps us build strength and confidence.
Yeah.
Thanks, T. The material is great. Absolutely.
The material is it's a lot and it's rich. And so if you've been through it before, you may want to just do it again. And that's not uncommon for our ladies to want to take another dive and address what's coming up for them now. And I don't know about you, Susan, you and I have been engaged in some group work outside of what we do here at Leslie Bernick and Company. And the benefit to growing in a group and in a coaching setting for me has been tremendous. So I can personally testify to that. Sometimes I think we try to create change and we've been working really hard at it. But the momentum that you find along with being in union with other believers from a biblically based model is huge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Diane, I see your comment in the chat. What are the options? If you go to lesliebernick.com/people pleasing course, you will see all the information, including the days and times. But to just answer that verbally for those who are listening, we have times that are 9:30 Eastern time, noon Eastern time, 7 o'clock Eastern time. So if you are in the UK, you just add 6 hours to that, probably, depending on where you are. So I think there's going to be a reasonable time for you to join. But do check out the sales page for that specifically. I do see the link in the chat, and it is on our screen if you're watching us as well.
All right. I think we want to invite you to ask questions regarding the topic or our group coaching experience. So I'm going to ask if you have any questions at this time to really either put them in the chat or use our question tracker.
Mm-hmm.
I will put that in the chat for you as well. There we go. We really want to encourage you and ask yourself some deeper questions. You know, we want to help you identify where you seek others' approval. We want to encourage you in our group coaching experience to identify and learn how to set boundaries that will honor God and honor you.
Mm-hmm.
will change the way you do relationships, and it will also change the relationships around you. We want to help you live from your identity and who Jesus says you are, and encourage and enable you to practice speaking up and showing up with boldness and grace in who you are, so that you're not held back from all that God has for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I will read the first question, and there may be more questions coming in. Go to leslievernick.com/question/ to get those questions to us anonymously. But the first one, so these questions should all relate to our topic today about people pleasing or the group coaching. So as we relate this first one to people pleasing, she says, I just spent 2 days with 2 Christian women who have been married 30 years, and they told me divorce was wrong biblically, as is remarriage. They went so far as to say that an affair has to be defined as sexual intercourse. I feel judged and crushed. Do you have any scriptural support or support otherwise? Yeah, any initial thoughts on this, Diana?
Yeah, I would, if this were my 2 friends, just responding to them, telling me what they believed the Bible said, I would really ask them to take me to the scriptures and show me how they are understanding God's word. I know a lot of people extrapolate what they believe God is speaking and what He's intended. My next question for them would be, did you understand the meaning of what is being said here in its context across time and scripture? And making sure that they are applying the word appropriately to you. And often, when we ask people for where does the Bible say that, and can you show me, let's open the word together and talk about it, is really biblical. I mean, God calls us to open the scriptures together and to talk about it. And the next thing I would say to you is we have many resources regarding this particular topic. And we have blog posts, we have videos on this. You can search for that and you can listen. The most important thing is not what other people think about where you're at and what your choices are. It's what you believe and what God is speaking to you. And so I would say to you, there's no one that's going to answer that question accurately for you. If it were me, I would peruse theologians. I would see what other speakers are saying. And then I would prayerfully ask God, what is it that I believe you are teaching me through your word? Because the conviction has to come internally, not externally. It's a huge decision for you to make in life, whether or not to divorce. So you don't want to base that decision on even what Coach Susan or I believe. But I will seek out wise others, and I believe Leslie, as our team, are wise. But I want you to search that out for yourself first and foremost, so that you know what you think and believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what really stands out to me in that question is that you feel judged and crushed. So somebody else's opinion about God's word or even about your situation has caused you to feel judged and crushed. And so are you trying to diminish yourself, to tell yourself, I must be wrong, they must be right, they get to decide for me? I really would want to explore with you, what are your thoughts and beliefs around that cause you to be feel judged and crushed by them? I would hope that you could come with a sense of confidence that we can be different, we can disagree, we can have different thoughts about scripture, about divorce and remarriage, and we can both be worthy and respected in our disagreement there. So I would love to work with you more. I don't know who wrote that question in, but I hope that you have visited the sales page and that you would consider joining us, because I would love to talk about this topic more with you. and see what's going on with you and your thoughts.
All right, second question.
Yeah. What happens if someone chooses for you, ignoring your no?
Well, do you have thoughts about that? You want to start? Or do you want me to?
Sure. Yeah, I have lots of thoughts about that, but you can go ahead and start.
Well, I'm curious about what you're going to say. Go ahead, you first.
Um, well, I think people want to choose for us, right? That especially if you're in a relationship with somebody who is controlling, if they want the power in the relationship, they'll want to choose for you. If they ignore your no, you may need to practice saying no in other ways. You may need to practice repeating your no. And you may need to practice hearing your own no and deciding what you need to do since the other person is not listening to your no. What additional thoughts do you have, Diana?
Well, initially I was going to say that wouldn't happen because I'm an adult and I get to choose. But it actually did happen to me yesterday. I was having a conversation with an older friend who we always confer with each other professionally. And that older friend heard some of the things that I was processing and made a decision for me and told me what to do. So that's really interesting. It's not the same thing. I didn't say a no, but someone was telling me what I needed, what I should do. And, ladies, that might happen to you often.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a lesser, smaller position. And, I didn't even have an option in this thing to say that doesn't work for me. I took the pause. I just took the pause and I just, oh, this is curious, right? And I just stepped back from it. So, in other words, this person was choosing for me what I needed.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, I'm going to go back and use my voice and say, I'm thinking this through and I'm not ready for that yet. I'm not ready to make that decision yet. So, letting them know. In the moment, I needed some pause to just think about it. And it was so good to recognize, wow. And so, just processing this a little bit, one of the questions you might ask yourself is, what about the conversation or what about the way that I presented myself might have enabled that person to think they had the right to ignore my no, right? Is there something I need to work on, as Coach Susan said, of being stronger? Or is it, yeah. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah. So the what happens in your question, you said, what happens if someone, the what happens belongs to you. You get to create what happens next. When someone ignores your no, what will you choose to do? So it's not sort of in their hands to decide what happens next. It's in your hands to say, wow, this person just ignored my no. What am I going to do about that? And that teaches them whether or not they can ignore your no and things just go on and they get their way.
Yeah. So the question is, where do people decide for me? And where do I let them decide for me? Because sometimes they just do it anyways. And other times we let them. Those are the questions to ask. And the letting them is the issue to address. All right. We got 2 more questions. Is it possible for people to see this people-pleasing characters, see these character traits in you, and you don't see it in yourself?
Well, certainly. Yes, we do have blind spots as human beings. And we may not experience it in the same way. We may not notice the cost. We may be blaming the cost on someone else and not connecting it to our own thoughts, beliefs, and actions. So if you have wise others in your life, supported, trusted friends who are giving you some feedback, it might be wise to listen to them, to do some self-reflection and self-examination. And also maybe just hearing this live today, does it resonate with you? Are you beginning to see how it might impact you?
Yeah. I would always say inviting wise others and then reflecting, is this truth for me? I don't always take in what other people say. I need some time to reflect on it. Does it agree with me? Is it, even though I might not have seen it, now that they're calling out, is the way they're seeing it, what they're saying to me, does it agree with what I know? Yeah.
Mhm. So our next question.
Yeah.
I have a hard time seeing myself as a people pleaser because I usually share my thoughts, but I'm often verbally attacked. I resonate most closely with feeling resentful towards others. Could resentment just be the top layer of my people pleasing?
That's a great question, and one that I would redirect back to you. So the question that to ask in that is, when I'm sharing my thoughts and I'm being verbally attacked and feeling resentful, what behavior do I engage in then?
Mhm.
In other words, when this is happening to me, what is my go-to? What is my response? What are the ways in which I respond to this that might be seeking to have other people care for me, affirm me, approve me? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, when I think of resentment, the feeling of resentment generally comes up because you're crossing your own limits. You're not paying attention to your own boundaries. So that's where I think I would start in working with you, is to really access what's coming up when you think about resentment. Where is that coming from? Where are you being pushed too far or allowing yourself to go too far?
Yeah.
Um, and maybe it's in allowing verbal attacks. So you may be stepping in to try to get somebody to hear you, to understand you. You may be working really hard to connect with this person who's verbally attacking you, and instead of saying, I won't allow myself to be verbally attacked. And that's going to look really different. If you are able to say, I won't allow myself to be verbally attacked, it doesn't mean the relationship repairs or that you automatically have connection. But what it does mean is you're taking care of your own feelings of resentment. Yeah. So in our group coaching, we do work a lot on boundaries. And so we're going to be doing a practical exercise on boundaries to really define those, to flesh those out, to talk about resentment and anger that comes up and what it could be related to. And then what steps do you take next so that you don't perpetuate those feelings, that you actually help yourself and allow those feelings to rise and fall, and you don't hang on to those.
Absolutely. So we want to again invite you to our flexible summer coaching program, and thank you for being here with us today. My question for you is, what are your takeaways after our conversation and the things that we shared today? What will you take away from our time together today that would be meaningful and helpful for you?
Mm-hmm.
If you would put that in the chat, in the comments, we would be so grateful to hear your thoughts.
Absolutely. So what's been empowering you today? What have you heard? Or what did you hear in these last 50 minutes that you didn't know before you tuned in? So I would love to see those takeaways. And while you're doing that, I do see a private comment here about how do you work with us? If you want to work with us, definitely joining the group coaching will be a way. So Coach Diana, myself, and Coach Leanne will all be involved in this summer coaching program. So you will get the opportunity to work with all three of us in group coaching. If you're interested in individual coaching, that is an option. And you can go to leslievernick.com to look up how to get a consult for individual coaching. But what we're here to talk about today is this group coaching experience where you can join with other women who understand what you're going through, who also identify with some of these unhealthy people-pleasing qualities, and who really want to get beyond it in a way where we can support and encourage one another. We can practice some things and really work on transformation together.
All right, ladies, thank you for being with us.
Yeah. What are you seeing in the chat in terms of what their takeaways are? I'm seeing
Inviting transformation is key.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I
We
need to
need
do
to do
self-care.
something. Yeah.
Seeing some patterns and how to deal with those.
Mm.
Gaining personal power helps cut resentment. Yes, that's a good one. So powerful. So glad that you were able to join us today. We're closing out our week. It's Friday. I hope you have some good weekend plans, but also consider joining us next week for our first group coaching session to kick off our summer flexible coaching experience together.
Yeah.
That's the best word I can use to describe it. It's going to be an experience. It's not just information, although there is a lot of great information. What we're working on is transformation together through experience. So if you want to be part of that, go to leslievernick.com/people pleasing course. You can check out all the details, the times that you can join us live. And I hope that we see you there. Any last thoughts, Diana?
I am just grateful to be here. I'm glad it's a Friday. I'm looking forward to our fresh start next week with all of you who are interested in joining. For those of you that are on the fence, don't wait till the last minute. There's a lot of material for you waiting in your box when you join up. So thank you for being with us. And remember that transformation is possible and things can be different. It starts with you.
Yeah, it does. Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend. Bye for now.